What up guys, Sekapoko here, bringing you another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. For this, we'll be going over my concept video for Legend Franky for 6 Plus Franky, as well as 6 Plus Sanji, just before they come out, and just for fun, why not, just doing it. So we know that they're going to be coming out very soon. I don't know when, but they're coming out soonish. And I figured I'd put this out there and hopefully you guys, we get something good. That'd be hype. I think their info might come out tonight, might come out tomorrow. We'll see. Whenever it gets out, I'll definitely make a video on it and we'll talk about them. Overall, this is my concept for what I hope they'll be around this power level, etc. So let me guys think. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright guys, so before, as always, we got to go over the original captain ability, and then we're going to go into the concept. So the original captain ability for Franky is going to be boost the attack of all characters by 3 times, HP by 1.3 if there are 6 characters in your crew with fighter, slasher, shooter, or striker classes. Now it has to be all of those, and this actually had a lot of bugs to it. So if you get one character knocked out of your crew, you completely lose the captain ability for Franky, which is a very big nuisance. So one of the things about his captain ability that made it super annoying is if you have one character knocked out of your crew temporarily or permanently, you can't go back, you can't turn on the general Franky, and that's a big nuisance. So you can't turn that on, and you lose the captain ability entirely. So that's the only captain ability in the entire game that has that bug. Judge does not have that bug. Magellan does not have that bug. No other character that requires 6 characters in your crew actually has that bug. So Franky's the only one that does, and it's really annoying to bring him for content because, like, oh, if you get knocked out or you get a character blown away, then he completely loses all damage. So that was kind of one of his big problems. And of course, finding teams that fit his thing, that was really bad as well. So also, people thought he had a lot less damage than the general Franky, which is actually not true. Just really depends on who you bring. So going into Franky's captain action, which is where it gets a little bit complicated. When you start Franky's captain action, of course, he goes. Everybody goes into the general Franky. You just have one character on the screen, but you are able to attack with 6 different units, and all 6 units have different attack styles. So if your character has the fighter in the top slot, then he will actually get 1.25 times damage. If it has striker in the top slot and fighter in the second slot, it would prioritize striker and would be a striker, so you guys know. But if it is fighter in the top slot, then it's going to be fighter. But if it's for characters like fighter free spirit, then it's just going to be considered a fighter. So then the next one is going to be slasher. You're going to do 1 times damage or normal damage, and then do partial damage to all enemies in the same row. I believe it was 10%, so it's full damage and then 10% to the side enemies in the first row, which was very useless, and no one ever wanted to use slashers because of that. You could use slashers, but it really didn't benefit your team a lot. It gave you a little damage, but not a ton of damage. Then the next was going to be striker, which is half damage to all enemies in the stage, and then shooters, which is 0.75 times damage, and then 30% of the damage or 0.3 times damage to all other enemies in the stage. So shooter was really useful, and striker was really useful for AoE clearing mobs. Unfortunately, shooter was really hard to use for any enemies for a lot of ads that's around the boss. If they had a decent chunk of armor, you actually would do not nearly enough damage for that. Also, good thing to note is that when you're using an AoE type ability for an auto attack, it actually does trigger barriers. So if Franky has barrier penetration, it doesn't trigger the barrier, but if he doesn't have barrier penetration at that specific time, then it would trigger the barrier. It would then trigger the barrier. So if it was a perfect barrier, then you can use Franky to blow through the perfect barrier on every single unit on the field, which is a very useful thing, especially for great barriers, perfect barriers, good barriers, whatever. So that's actually extremely useful for certain content and makes it a very good captain overall to have. Alright, Franky's special ability, however, is extremely easy to understand. Cuts the HP of all enemies by 10%, randomizes non-matching orbs, including block orbs, and then boosts the attack of fighter, slasher, shooter, and striker characters by 2 times for 1 turn. And then he goes from 21 turns down to 16 turns, and then with limit break goes down to 15 turns. I think that's right. Anyways, overall, he's a really good 2 times booster for a lot of free spirit teams, a lot of other teams. So definitely a great 2 times booster having your team. Overall, for shooter teams as a sub, you could use him there as well. There's lots of options that you have. Okay, so let's go over 6 Plus Franky's concept. So overall, Franky had a lot of holes in him, and what I want to do is get rid of that 6-person limitation, so you don't have to have 6 fighters, strikers, shooters, slashers in the captain, and made it a little bit better. So now I'm going to add it so it's fighters, strikers, and shooters, get rid of slashers, are going to be boosted by 3.25 and then 2.75 otherwise. So every other class in the game is boosted by 2.75. You know, you only have to have one of those classes, obviously, so it makes it pretty nice. And then it's also going to boost the HP of all those characters by 1.3. So giving you a good HP boost as well as giving you a good damage for your shooters, fighters, and strikers. And giving 2.75 boost to everybody else, making it so that you don't have those bugs that related to Franky when he was in the 6-star farm. So we don't, a lot less bugs just because we're removing the requirements. Now his captain action is brings the entire crew into the general Franky for 1 turn, immune to blowaway effects just like before, and then during this turn, boosts the attack of shooter, fighter, striker characters by 4.25, and this is instead of 4 times, and the other characters by 3 times. So it's kind of similar to Wipe and Marker when you pop his captain special ability, except now we're making it into a captain action for Franky and giving you a big boost. So the captain action for Franky at a 4.25 times multiplier is insanely high, by the way. However, we're going to be adding in some other things to make it to lower a little bit, but the nice thing that balances his captain ability is that you cannot use this with 2 Frankies. So if you're using 1 Franky, it's going to be a 3.25 times boost times a 4.25 boost. And if you're going to be using this as a hybrid, obviously that's going to be a lot better. But Franky historically is a hybrid captain and not really a just the one-stop shop captain. But this gives you a little bit of, like, what's the word? A little bit of hindrance on some of the other problems with Franky. So just to note, a 3.25 times multiplier times a 4.25 times multiplier, which is Franky's captain ability, puts you at about a 3.71 average captain multiplier. So if both Frankies were at 3.71, that would be the captain multiplier, making him not too overpowered and not too underpowered, giving him nice in the middle, nice in the middle. Now, there's also other boosts that Franky have in here, so we're going to go ahead and go with this in a second. Franky's captain action all action lasts for 1 turn and then can be reactivated after a 3-turn cooldown. This used to be a 4-turn cooldown, and I've lowered it to 3. Only Franky's captain action can be activated once. So now we're going to go into each of the boosts for Franky. All right, during the captain action with Franky, what's going to happen is that the fighter is going to remain at 1.25 times damage, giving you just a badass boost to one of those characters. So that makes it a huge damage boost. Now, if you wanted to change that, if you want to figure out what the total average captain multiplier is, if we multiply it by 1.25, that would be like a 4.6 times multiplier to fighters when Franky is your captain and friend captain. So that's a big boost in damage when Franky is popped with a fighter. When you're doing it with a striker, it's going to be at 0.75. So it's going to be, of course, a little bit less, which is akin to like a 2.78 times multiplier for both Frankies. So it's, of course, a lot less damage, but you do get a giant AoE for everybody on the field. That's a 2.78 AoE. So that's a pretty big AoE. Not gonna lie, that's pretty hefty as far as damage goes, as far as AoE damage. And if you're gonna do it with a shooter, obviously you get 1 times damage to the main target, and then 0.3 times to every other enemy on the stage. Now the upgrade, of course, is on the striker version, you're going from 0.5 to 0.75, which is a big upgrade. And then for shooters, you're going from 0.7 all the way to 1x on the single target damage, and then keeping the 0.3 on everything else. So this gives you a big damage boost in all Franky's forms. And if you're going to attack with somebody else, it just attacks normally with Franky, so you don't have any other boosts attached to it. So anyone else that's not a fighter, striker, or shooter, it's going to give you a decent amount of damage. Not a perfect damage, but it's going to be okay. I'll give you that nice 3.7 times the multiplier. So overall, Franky is a very strong unit in this concept. I like to know what you guys think here. I think I made him strong enough with fighters. With Luffy Ace, obviously he's going to be a monster with a double 4.25 multiplier. And then fighters, if you want to know what that would be, it's a 22 total times multiplier, which is an average of 4.75 times multiplier, which is huge. So overall, yeah, that's a big boost in damage for free spirit teams, for free spirit fighters. So just know that that's going to be still very strong. And then for Franky's special ability, we're getting somewhat of a nerf here. So what I'm showing is like instead of having fighter, striker, shooter, and slasher now, it's only going to boost fighter, striker, and shooter. So they're getting a higher damage boost at 2.25, but it's lowering the total amount of units that can actually get the boost. So if you are bringing in characters that are not boosted by Franky's captain ability fully, then you're not going to get a boost on those characters. giving kind of a more well-rounded Franky. So I like that. I like it where the boost is really, really strong, but it's also not too strong. A 2.25 times boost is very, very strong overall, but you know, it does have some weaknesses to it. Of course, it has an orb manipulate, which is an orb shuffle, which can be negative, seeing how there's like negative, positive, like beneficial orb enables and orb shuffle interrupts, etc. So this could be positive and negative, really depending on the content. Really just depends on what kind of content you run into. A 2.25 boost might also be too strong. So I'm not 100% on the 2.25 times boost, but you know what? It's really hard to change the special ability when it's as strong as it is. And the overall, I like the way we changed Franky's captain ability, which is the biggest problem in my opinion. Overall, special ability, just a small boost, totally fine with me. All right, so the next thing we're going to go over is going to be version 1 Sanji. And version 1 Sanji, of course, is going to be boost the attack of all characters by 2.5 and their HP by 1.3. Kind of seeing a trend between the two characters. I mean, Franky and Sanji both have captain actions, right? And they're both like universal boosters. Maybe that was like Maybe that was the thing. His captain action is Sanji walks in the air for 1 turn, preventing all debuffs on himself, including but not limited to Bind Despair, Silence, and Paralysis. Yeah, that's all true. It's not immune to burn damage, that's for sure. This does not remove his own captain boost while he is unable to attack. During the next turn, his boost by 6.25 instead. So the captain action lasts for 2 turns and can be reactivated on no cooldown. Well, even when skywalking, it will still boost all characters by 2.5. The skywalk type is not a type boost and will not stack with other boost. So again, it's a 6.25 times self boost and then a 2.5 times normal boost. So if you're using Sanji and Sanji, it's going to be 6.25 times 2.5. So the big problem with Sanji is that double Sanji was okay. It was just, you know, it's hard to use. And overall, Sanji's going to hit at a 15.625 times multiplier, which is about 3.9 times total. So Sanji hits at like basically a 4x multiplier total if you're using double Sanji, and then every other character on your field hits for a 2.5 times multiplier, which is kind of lame. I mean, that's pretty lame. I mean, with chain boost, it's okay, but like overall, it's kind of lame as far as double Sanji damage goes. And that's why nobody wanted to use it, because overall, your whole damage was not very high, and then your boosted damage with Sanji with the skywalk was also not very high, so it was pretty bad. And then here comes Sanji's special ability, which is arguably the longest animation in the entire freaking game. It deals 100,000 damage to all enemies, changes block tandem and adjacent orbs into matching orbs, and then boosts his own attack by 2 times for 1 turn. Overall, it was just not worth. Like, you get a 2 times boost on yourself, but there's like 2 times universal boosters now, and there's 1.75 universal boosters for the entire team that are free to play, like Rayleigh's, and there's a lot of other fighter boosters, striker boosters, shooter boosters, powerhouse boosters that are just better. So why would you even want to use Sanji's captain ability? So that was a kind of a weird thing. Overall, his special ability is not very good. His captain ability was kind of okay, and like the bypassing mechanics was cool, but like overall he wasn't very good. So he really needs a big boost, and I'm not sure what that's going to be when it comes out legitimately, but let's go over the concept. Okay, so going over his new captain ability, which is going to be boosting all characters by 3 times instead of 2.5 times, and their HP by 1.3, giving him a normalized boost. I mean, to be honest, 3 times, if you don't have like a 3 times captain at this point, for just the monster stages, you're getting destroyed in content. So nobody even wants to use anybody that's not at least a 3 times captain in the early stages. I mean, 3 times is still pretty low with the amount of HP that the monsters have nowadays in the earlier stages. And you do want to have somebody that's going to be okay on a stage 3 in a Coliseum, stage 4, and just to like blow through the content before you even get to the final boss. His captain action is Sanji skywalks in the air for 1 turn, preventing all debuffs, the same as before. But this does not remove his own captain boost while he's unable to attack. And then during the next boost, he's going to be boosted by 6.5 times instead. So this is a big increase from a 3x normal captain ability going to a higher captain ability for himself when he's in the air instead of 6.25 and 6.5. So overall, let's go over the damage that he's gonna get. Now, before he was getting like a 3.9 times boost if you're using double Sanji, and now if you're using a 6.5 times a 3 times multiplier, that would give closer to on Sanji a 4.4 times multiplier on himself. And then for everybody else, of course, going to get a 3 times multiplier. So it gives you like a slightly higher boost on Sanji, giving you a kind of more balanced unit. And this is still providing a very, very high attack value for Sanji. Now, of course, this can be a little bit abused with hybrid captains, which is very interesting. So if you were to use a hybrid captain with Sanji and then use that, you're going to, of course, get an average of like a 3.3 times multiplier. Say using a V2 Gear 4 friend captain multiplied by Sanji's captain ability, which would give closer to a 5 times multiplier on Sanji. And then on everybody else on the team, you would be getting basically 3.46 times captain ability for everybody else on the team. So, I mean, to be honest, that's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, a 3.5 times multiplier, and then the G4 special. But of course, G4 only works if you pop his special ability or captain action. So it's not like every single turn you're boosted like that, just on the burst turns. So overall, I do like that. I like that it's not too overpowered. Sanji got himself getting a 5x captain ability with that would be not too overpowered. And of course, you have the new Germa 66 you can run with that. You can run the 6+ Judge Squad. You can run the normal 6-star Judge Squad, whatever you want with Sanji, so you do have other options. And I do like that they're both int right now, so that's really helpful. I don't know if they're going to change Sanji's typing when the 6+ comes out, but I hope they do. All right, so for the 6+ concept for Sanji's special ability, what we're going to do is something a little bit different, and I'm removing entirely the 100k fixed damage. And the one reason I'm doing that is because when you add too many effects to a special ability, that's why it takes so long. That's why Big Mom's special ability takes a little bit longer. That's why there's a lot of other special abilities in the game that take a long time. But Sanji had 3 different effects. He had an orb manipulate effect, he had a wave clear effect, and then had a boost effect. So all 3 of those have different animations in the game, which is why it takes so long. So having just an orb manipulate as well as 2 boosts would basically even that out, giving it closer timing to like V2 Akainu as well as V2 Shanks, so you give like a closer timing there. So for him, he's going to change block, tandem, bomb, and then now recovery orbs and adjacent orbs into his and his own orb into matching orbs. And then if this unit is skywalking, and I changed it so it's conditional on skywalking, boost his own attack by 2.25 and then chain multiplier by 0.9. Otherwise, it's going to boost the attack of all characters by 1.75 and chain by 0.6. Giving him a lower damage captain ability, of course, than version 2 Shanks. So not as coveted, but when you talk about his overall self boost, he does get a high self boost. Now, of course, Shanks will, of course, give a much better boost if you're using Shanks as a sub here. So he still has that problem of not being as good as other characters. But the main thing with Sanji is that he has a bypassing captain effect and has that jumping mechanic, which actually bypasses a lot of mechanics. So overall, that is an interesting thing to play with, and it can't make him too overpowered one way, can't make him stronger than V2 Shanks, gotta make him similar to V2 Shanks. He's gotta have some benefit there. And the thing with Sanji is that you don't want chain lock, you want a chain boost. And the reason you want chain boost is you want your last hits to be hit stronger, not at the same chain multiplier as everything else. So with Sanji, if you have a chain boost on your captain, that gives you a massive, massive boost to himself. And the actual damage that you'd be putting out on Sanji is much, 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 much higher than before. So if you guys aren't aware, a 0.9 chain boost is insane. A 0.6 chain boost is still very, very strong. It's similar to like a 2.75 times chain lock, but a 0.9 chain boost is like a 3.25 chain multiplier lock. So just give you an idea of where the average is on those. I mean, obviously the math is a little bit different there. It just gives you an idea of what to expect. So since you're last hitting on Sanji's going to have a lot of damage, probably over 2k with his limit break. He's going to be a very, very strong unit as your captain and getting that 6.5 times multiplier in yourself, as well as getting a 3 times or 4 times or whatever multiplier that you're going to have on the friend captain, giving a very, very high damage character to have for Sanji damage. And this also gives you the option to use Sanji boost for 1 boost to boosting himself and just destroying the field for 1 unit hit. This is really good for high armor targets. This is really good for good type advantage for perfect barriers, etc. So this is a very, very strong character for a lot of different situations that will be coming up in the Japanese version. Chain boost is really helpful for fighting things with a lot of barriers or a lot of armor. So overall, I like the way this came out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Alright guys, my name's Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you did, like, subscribe, all the fun stuff, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.